A surprising number of Buddhists in the West are Jewish. They even have a name, JewBus. Here's a staggering statistic. Roughly a quarter of non-Asian American Buddhists in the US are Jews. That's a lot of Jewish Buddhists. So what is it about Buddhism? From beat poets to spiritual seekers to world-renowned musicians, why are so many Jews drawn to Buddhism? Let me tell you a story. After the Holocaust, Judaism in America had one mission: rebuild. Synagogues, day schools, country clubs, summer camps, seminaries. Jewish life in the 20th century rose up from the ashes of the Shoah and flourished, at least on the surface. But beneath it, something else was happening. For a lot of young Jews coming of age in the 50s and 60s, synagogue life, the sermons, the prayers, the rote repetition, it all felt cold, stiff, uninspired. Meanwhile, not far away from the local synagogue, the counterculture was in full swing. There was rock music, LSD, March on Washington, Woodstock, the Beatles in India. And amidst all this, people were asking really deep questions about the soul, about the universe. Looking for answers, young people in the West were heading east. And among them was a surprising number of young Jews. And what many found was Buddhism. A practice that, at face value, appeared as the antithesis of the Judaism back home. Gone were the stuffy pews, the bad suits, the boring sermons, the repetitive cantorial music. In their place was silence, stillness, the sound of breath. No hierarchy, no committees, no synagogue politics, just breath, just being. Buddhism didn't even present itself as a religion, but as a philosophy and a practice, something accessible, immediate, tapped in. There were no membership dues, no theological litmus tests, no requirements to convert. For many Jews, raised on a Judaism of obligations, of prohibitions, of guilt, of do this, don't do that, this was radical. You could walk into a zendo or a meditation center, sit down on a cushion, and participate in something spiritually awake. Again, this was very, very different from the institutional, communal structure of American Judaism at the time. It's no wonder so many Jews were drawn in. Now, to be sure, Jews have a long history of abandoning Judaism for different religious traditions. Only typically, when Jews converted to another faith, it was under duress, convert or die. But this time, Jews weren't abandoning Judaism to save their lives. They were turning to Buddhism to seek something more.
The external view of Judaism is not very spiritual or particularly even conscious. I think for me, growing up as an unaffiliated Jew, I saw Judaism as a religion of rituals and trying to appease there seems to be this angry man in the sky.
This is Rabbi Dov Ber Cohen, a scholar and teacher living in Jerusalem. He knows very well why Jews are drawn to Buddhism because he himself was once a practicing Buddhist.
I grew up in a Jewish family, but I never saw Judaism as a path to personal mastery or spirituality. It was a nice ritualistic thing that we did, a traditional culture type thing, but it wasn't an actual path, whereas the Eastern path seemed much more attractive and much more practical and empowering and spiritual.
Rabbi Cohen's view mirrors the view of a lot of Jews who found inspiration and spiritual value in Buddhism. Sure, Judaism offered culture and tradition, but Buddhism offered a living path that felt vital, empowering, and explicitly spiritual. For many Jewish seekers, Buddhism seemed to provide the tools for inner transformation that Judaism, at least on the surface, appeared to lack. Buddhism says that through meditation and detachment from ego, you can find true meaning and purpose. That peace comes not from the world around you, but from making still the world within you. These were conversations that institutional Judaism just wasn't having. And then, of course, there's Buddhism's view of suffering. Buddhism says that life is defined by suffering, and that the only way to transcend it is to let go of attachment to people, to possessions, even to yourself. Now, it could be that for Jews coming of age in the shadow of the Holocaust, the Buddhist view of suffering held resonance. A philosophy that named suffering as life's central truth and then offered a path to rise above it. A cursory look through Jewish history, and it's no wonder so many Jews found this compelling. Even today, Jews make up a disproportionate share of American Buddhists, not just as practitioners, but as leaders. From prominent teachers like Jack Kornfield and Sharon Salzberg, to countless therapists and lay leaders who weave Buddhist practice into their daily life. But for some JewBus, Buddhism became a path towards something else. For Rabbi Cohen in particular, his dedication to Buddhism led him to discover a different ancient spiritual practice.
I turned up in Israel and someone said to me, "Why don't you look into Judaism?" And I said, because I don't believe in fear. You have to be afraid, and it seems just like a lot of rules. I can't do this and I can't do this.
Rabbi Cohen found that a lot of the spirituality he was so drawn to in Buddhism was actually present and native to his own tradition, and that if he dug below the surface, Judaism could begin to look very different from the one he grew up with. He discovered that the Jewish ritual obligations, which he once saw as rigid rules, were in fact mindfulness practices, designed to bring awareness and intention into even the smallest acts of daily life. Saying a blessing, lighting Shabbat candles, even putting on your shoes the right way, all became opportunities for presence. He also found that meditation, so central to Buddhist practice, wasn't foreign to Judaism at all.
I used to think anyone who does Jewish meditation, they're just making it up. But then I saw the ancient sources from the Gemara and from the Torah that speak about higher states of consciousness and Yishuv Hadas, calming your mind and becoming present, and Kavanah, having intention.
The spiritual pieces he'd once embraced in Buddhism were already embedded in Judaism. It was just that, growing up, he'd never been able to see Judaism in that light before, as a living spiritual path. This is Sarah Yocheved Rigler, a scholar and teacher who writes extensively about Jews and their relationship to Eastern practice.
Jews did not see any path, a spiritual path that led them somewhere in Judaism. And of course, the Eastern path, both Buddhism and Hinduism, offer a path. You're going in a direction toward a goal. But there is a goal in Judaism. The goal is to bond with God.
What felt hidden or inaccessible in Rabbi Cohen's youth only revealed itself when he returned with new eyes. And in this way, his own Judaism was shaped by his years of Buddhist practice.
I think because of my Buddhist mindfulness training, I can really tap into tefillah, to prayer, and to being present, and to doing the mitzvahs in the way that they're meant to be done, with kavanah and consciousness and presence.
JewBus like Rabbi Cohen remind us of something easily overlooked. Judaism wasn't born in the West, but in the Near East. At its core, it's always carried practices of meditation, mysticism, spiritual depth, and in turn, many JewBus have helped reopen Jewish eyes to these ancient traditions, inspiring a wider movement towards mindfulness, intentional living, and a direct personal connection with God. But the exchange wasn't one-sided. While Buddhism left a mark on Judaism, Judaism too helped shape the face of Buddhist practice. In 1990, a meeting took place in Dharamsala, India. The Dalai Lama, the exiled spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism, invited a delegation of rabbis to explore how these two ancient traditions might learn from each other. His question was simple: how had the Jewish people survived 2,000 years without a homeland? What unfolded was a dialogue between two ancient paths. The rabbis shared lessons of resilience and continuity, while the Buddhists reflected back insights on meditation and inner life, each tradition illuminating the other. This encounter eventually became the subject of a best-selling book, The Jew in the Lotus, which popularized the term JewBu and brought this unlikely East-West conversation into the mainstream of American Jewish life. But beneath the surface, the encounter revealed something deeper. Jews don't have to leave their faith to find things like meditation, mindfulness, or a living spiritual path. All of these are right there in Judaism.
Jews are innately spiritual, and I think anybody who wants to connect to the spiritual dimension of reality can't leave out God. What Judaism offers is that relationship with a loving God.
For many Jewish seekers, Buddhism opened the door to a path that led not away from, but back to Judaism itself. A tradition they once thought was only about rules and rituals, revealed instead as a living path towards mindfulness, connection, and love of God. And so maybe this Jewish encounter with Buddhism wasn't about abandoning our tradition. Maybe instead, it was a circuitous route to rediscovering it. And that journey, that search for self, for meaning, for truth, that might just be the most Jewish thing of all.